recording. So it is important that you're telling people if they're being in Zoom and they're recorded, although there's in Zoom there's like a red button that shows saying recording, but it's important that you tell people why you are recording. So I'm recording this meeting so I can make notes about it later, and then you can tell them would you use their name or you will not use their name. So if it's for research or if it's not that important to have the name like in the focus groups, it doesn't make that much any difference. So it's good you tell them we are going to give you a fake name. Again, if this is not the case, it's important that you like tell them and not assume that they will know. And I think that most places that I have seen, it's not clear that people are being audio recorded or video recorded, or photos or images of them are being taken. So just it's good ethics that you do these things. So to go back to all the things that you have to plan in order when you're like having a meeting. So it's again important that you know the room and know the setting, know the kinds of like chairs that you have, the kinds of tables that you have. You don't want to come into a place that you were trying to have a discussion with like maybe like round tables and having like small kinds of discussions with like a place where you could write, and then when you go there, all of a sudden all the chairs are looking up front and there's no table, and the chairs are actually tied to each other, so it's not like you can move them and make like a circle. And again, I'm saying this like that you, by experience actually, that you have to plan ahead, and sometimes you try to figure out like which kind of room would you have. But for instance, in conferences that you are flying somewhere else, getting someone to tell you exactly which room would you be and what will be the setting is sometimes almost impossible. So you have to plan to actually like be able to do it in different ways and be able to improvise. But if you're in your local community, most likely you can go and visit the place, you can see how it is. You can, if the meeting, for example, happens at nighttime and all the staff members supposed to be gone at that time, so you need to know like who is going to open, and actually do I have to pay extra? So that's kind of always a good question to ask, because like people are doing like could be doing double time or doing extra work, and the organization maybe is assuming that burden, but you as a city could be paying a little extra $100 or whatever it is for that person to stay there. And in some of these events you actually may not only want someone who will open and close the place for you, that you can offer some compensation, but in many places security might be very important to have, especially if you anticipate that your meeting will be very contentious. So those are some of the details that you have to figure out. And of course, like with technology, you also have to figure out if you're going to have a projector, are you having your adapter for your computer, are you having your HDMI cable, or do they use other types of cables? Do I have like a clicker that I need? What happens if I cannot project at all? Do I have at least the slides in front of me? Even if I don't have internet and I cannot access them, do I have them in my computer so I can like scroll and like look at the slides, even though if I just only verbalize what is being said? Do I want to have some kind of backup in where I will have actually write down if there's like boards in there, or do I bring paper and markers and like trying to illustrate some of the concepts visually that way? So you really want to figure out the technology. You also want to figure out if you need other things like coffee, and is it gonna have like a table where I can put all the food? Do I have like a tablecloth? Do I have the utensils? Am I thinking about people that have like allergies or that are vegetarian, that might need like gluten-free foods? So those are all things to think about when you are like planning an event, and when you have the public participation, you also want to think about, am I going to time the public participation, and I'm going to do it like very free flow, but it's going to be like a group discussion and it's going to take maybe 10 minutes. Obviously you will have an agenda, and you have to like stay on time on your agenda as much as possible, and then you could also have like alternatives for people to give comments. So not everybody will want to verbalize in front of the group the comments. That's why you have like some public comment cards in the front, and when you welcome people, along with your sign-on sheet or along with your agenda and other materials that people might need. And then you actually, as a facilitator in the front or as a spokesperson, you will read these like comments out loud. Many times these comments actually like have the name of the person and the address and so on, so you have to also make sure that they know that these comments are not anonymous and that they are like being recorded, if that's the case. And this is like the case for most like public hearings, I would say. But if it's like a regular meeting, you might not need to do that. You might just read the comments aloud, or you might keep the comments for yourself and then collect them for later. And I actually have seen like in some contentious meetings, people do not give the floor to people in the microphone because they're like afraid of like hearing horrible things. And I have seen this actually not in public settings, but in community settings as well. So a lot of like community members might be organizing something in where they invite politicians, and then these politicians might be at the Congress level, just like state legislators, so people that are very important for these free organizations. Let's say that you are all affordable housing developers and you really want the politicians to be on board with some projects that you are developing, and you are afraid that the community members are going to be attacking the politicians on not only the housing issue, but in other issues, because they have the opportunity to have the politicians in front of them, and the railing conversations is like very easy in that setting. But at the same time, you as a developer of affordable housing or as a community organizing, we're telling I had a discussion with these like politicians about the potentiality of like the community being upset about X, Y, and Z, and you don't want for that to happen. So you're like assuring them that they will not be embarrassed in front of everyone. And James Creighton made like a comment about these in the book, this is really a rule that he abides by, just like making sure that politicians are not embarrassed, because then what happens, like if you're trying to do advocacy or you're trying to get something done, and then the politician then has a bad opinion of you and never comes back to your meetings or never supports any of your projects, so that can be very dangerous. So in a situation like this, you might have the public comments in cards, and you might read them. You might even have like the name of the person, but the person will not have the microphone.